Catherine Morrison had been raised in the small town of Willow Creek, Ohio, and barely had time to celebrate her promotion to loan manager at the local First Community Bank before facing the mountain of paperwork on her desk. The warm autumn sunlight streaming through the window contrasted with the bank's cold air conditioning. She smiled naturally when she saw the message from David during her lunch break. "Looking forward to dinner tonight. I have something important to talk about. Love you." Catherine felt her heart race. After 2 years of dating, David might finally be asking the question. But her smile quickly faded. Just thinking about how her family would react to the news made her stomach feel heavy. After finishing work, she stopped by her parents' house and heard the usual commotion as she approached. "Nobody understands my talent. My music doesn't fit in this town." Catherine sighed. It seemed her brother Connor had started another band-related argument. When she entered the living room, she noticed his long hair and unkempt beard. Her parents sat around their son, listening intently to his speech. "Ah, Cat, perfect timing." Her father Walter noticed his daughter and immediately changed the subject. "Connor's band needs new equipment. We've got to support talented folks." Catherine mentally rolled her eyes. This was a scene that had been repeating since she was 18. Her brother was constantly told he had talent by their parents and continued to leech off them and Catherine without actually earning anything. "It's okay, Walt. I'll cover it," her mother Barbara said. She looked at Catherine. "But we also need to pay the mortgage this month." Her words trailed off. Catherine took her checkbook from her purse. This too was routine. When she graduated high school, Catherine had earned a scholarship to community college. But her father persuaded her to work at the local bank for the family.
"Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I do it 2 link below if you're curious."
Since then, she had shouldered most of the family's expenses: the mortgage, her parents' debt repayments, her brother's music investments, and her sister Haley's tuition. "How much do you need?" she asked calmly. "About $800, Connor said. It's a top-notch amp. With this, the band might break through." Catherine calculated mentally. That was the money she'd been saving for David's birthday present. But she silently wrote the check. "Thank you, Kat. You're the best sister," her mother said. "The pillar of the family. The pillar of the family." How many times had Catherine heard those words? Her salary was the pillar supporting the entire family. But the family didn't notice that the pillar itself was about to collapse. "Oh, and we need to pay Haley's tuition for next semester by next week," her mother added casually. "She'll be the first in the family to graduate college. Aren't you proud?" Catherine thought about her sister. 21-year-old Haley was indeed working hard. She was the only child whom her parents expected to be the first in the family to graduate college. But Catherine was paying most of her tuition. "I'm having dinner with David tonight," Catherine changed the subject. "He says he has something important to talk about." "I hope it's not about marriage," her mother frowned. "You're still young. And Haley's education takes priority right now." "Kat, you're the responsible one in this family," her father said gravely. "Don't forget that family comes first." Catherine just nodded. Since childhood, she had been taught to be a good daughter. That meant always meeting family demands and putting her own desires second. David had been encouraging her to question those values, but it wasn't easy to change the family first belief that had been ingrained for 18 years. As she was leaving, Catherine took a deep breath in her car. Tonight, if David proposed, she would say yes. And for the first time, she would choose her own life. Guilt about her family would always be part of her heart, but she had the right to be happy too. Even if her family couldn't understand that. She started the engine and headed to David's apartment. Under the soft lighting of an Italian restaurant, David raised his wine glass. To our future. His gentle eyes were filled with certainty and love. Catherine felt her hand trembling as she clinked her glass against his. As expected, toward the end of dinner, David took out a small blue velvet box and got down on one knee. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Each of his words echoed in her heart. "Catherine Morrison, will you share your life with me?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. In that moment, she discovered for the first time what true happiness felt like. In David's arms, she felt safe and loved. He was the only person who valued her for herself, not for her money or support. However, when she returned home and shared the engagement news, Catherine's hopes were brought back to cold reality. Marriage? No. Walter, her father, stared at her through drunken eyes. "Think again. You're still young. And you have responsibilities to the family." "Congratulations, Kat," her mother Barbara offered formal congratulations but quickly got to the point. "But how will we pay for the wedding? With Haley's tuition and the house renovations, we can't afford it." Connor, strumming his guitar strings, said, "Isn't it fine if he's rich? Does an architectural design firm make good money?" Catherine took a deep breath. "David and I will pay for the wedding ourselves. And after we're married, I plan to continue supporting the family as much as I can." She spoke the words she had prepared. "I'll send a fixed amount each month, so don't worry." "A fixed amount?" her father's voice echoed low. "That won't be enough. Especially if you move out, who's going to pay for the rest of Haley's college expenses?" Catherine was at a loss for words. According to her plan, she intended to allocate about 30% of her monthly expenses to family support, but that was less than her current support. She and David needed money to start their new life together. "Getting married in 2 months is too soon," her mother declared. "You should at least postpone until next year and save money in the meantime." "I can't postpone it," Catherine protested. "We've already made most of the reservations and paid the deposits." "Then shouldn't you have used that money for the family?" her father suddenly said. The usual kindness was absent from his voice. "Your sister's education is more important than a party, isn't it?" Catherine talked with David on the phone. He understood her feelings and supported her. "They're exploiting you, Kat. That's not what family is. Family is about loving and supporting each other. Thinking it's natural to sacrifice you isn't a healthy relationship." She understood intellectually, but her heart felt heavy. "But they're my family. I can't abandon them." "I'm not saying abandon them," David said gently. "But setting healthy boundaries is important. You have the right to be happy too." That weekend, Catherine had a dress fitting scheduled but stopped by her parents' house first. However, she noticed her parents and Haley sitting with serious expressions. Connor stood behind them with his usual indifferent look. "I have something important to tell you," Haley said. Her voice was trembling. "I don't have enough money for tuition. I might not be able to go next semester. But I've been sending money for tuition every semester." Catherine was confused. "The tuition went up," Haley said apologetically. "And the textbooks?" Her father interrupted. "Actually, we're behind on the mortgage too. The bank has been sending notices." Catherine was growing increasingly anxious. "Why didn't you tell me? How much do you need?" Her father and mother exchanged glances. "About $15,000, her father said. "That would solve all our problems." $15,000. Catherine gasped. That was almost the same amount that she and David had saved for their wedding and honeymoon. "We have no one else but you, Kat," her mother's eyes were moist. "You're the pillar of the family." Catherine's mind was in turmoil. "Let me think about it," she finally said. On her way out, passing by her father's study, she was drawn to an open drawer. It contained numerous collection notices and what appeared to be letters from loan sharks. Confused, she began examining them. Opening the envelopes with her thumb, she discovered evidence that her father had accumulated substantial gambling debts over the years. More shockingly, it seemed that much of her financial support had been used to repay gambling debts. And that investments in Connor's band activities had actually been used for debt repayments. With trembling hands, Catherine returned the letters and left the house. In the car, she called David while crying. "My family has been lying to me," she said. "They've been using me." David's voice was calm, but he couldn't hide his anger. "Kat, this isn't just a family issue. It's exploitation. Sometimes you need distance from the people you love. You have the right to live your own life." Catherine looked at her face in the car mirror. Her eyes were red and swollen from tears, but something determined was forming within them. "We'll have our wedding as planned," she said quietly. "And I'll start my own life." 3 days before the wedding, Catherine headed to her parents' house for one last attempt at reconciliation. Guilt and determination mingled in her heart. David had tried to convince her not to go, but Catherine wanted to have a final conversation before completely severing ties with her family. "Just a calm talk," she told herself. "I'll tell them I'll support them as much as I can after the marriage. But they need to understand that I have the right to be happy too." The gentle April sunshine illuminated the small house where she had grown up. This house, which once felt warm, now seemed to hide some dark secret. Catherine opened the door and entered. As she stepped into the living room, she stopped in her tracks. Besides her parents, 2 unfamiliar men were seated. They were middle-aged, wearing cheap suits, and had the unmistakable air of debt collectors. The atmosphere was tense and oppressive. "Kat, you finally made it," her father acted unnaturally cheerful. His eyes were bloodshot, and his shirt was wrinkled. "We were just discussing some business with these gentlemen." Catherine sensed the situation and quietly asked, "What happened?" Nothing," her father waved his hand. "Just talking about investments." "They were just leaving, right?" The 2 men stood up and looked Catherine up and down. 48 hours, Walter. "We can't wait any longer," the taller man said. After they left, the atmosphere in the room changed. Her mother collapsed onto the sofa and began crying quietly. Her father stood by the window, staring outside. "Who were they?" Catherine asked. "What's going on?" "None of your business," her father said. But his voice lacked strength. "Stop lying to me," Catherine said quietly but firmly. "I'm not a child anymore. I've been supporting the family for years. I have the right to know the truth." Her mother looked up. "Walt, you should tell her. We can't hide it anymore." Her father began to lose his composure. "We only have a week's grace period." "We don't have that kind of money anywhere," he suddenly shouted. His face was distorted with anger and fear. "What are you talking about?" Catherine was confused. "Debt," her mother said, crying. "Your father borrowed a large sum from loan sharks. We can't pay it back, they're threatening us." "How much?" Catherine's voice was trembling. "Over $40,000, her father answered quietly. Catherine gasped. That was equivalent to her annual salary. "How could you?" "It's my fault," her mother suddenly said. "I spent too much on shopping, and the investments in Connor's band failed. We'll lose this house," her mother continued crying. "Haley will have to quit college. If we had your wedding money, we could make the initial repayment," her father said. His eyes locked with Catherine's. "The whole family will be homeless for the sake of a mere wedding." Catherine answered with a trembling voice. "But everything's ready. There will be cancellation fees." And what?" Her father's eyes grew stern. "And this is an important day for David and me," she summoned her courage to say. "We've planned and saved for this day. Because of your selfishness, the entire family will be ruined, her father's voice echoed through the room. Something within Catherine collapsed at his words, and simultaneously, something new was born. She slowly stood up. It's not my fault that you created this debt, she raised her voice for the first time. I've been sacrificing for the family all along. I gave up college. I could hardly save anything for myself. But I've reached my limit. Her father's face turned bright red. We didn't have these problems when you were living at home. Everything started going wrong when you said you were leaving. Her mother interjected. Kat, you're the pillar of the family. You should sacrifice for the family. We have no one else to rely on. Those words were sweet and seductive, but they no longer affected Catherine. I won't be a sacrifice anymore, Catherine said quietly but with strong determination. I have the right to start a new life with David. I will get married. And I will support you as much as I can, but I can't sacrifice everything anymore. Silence dominated the room. In her father's eyes, Catherine saw something she had never seen before. It was something dark and dangerous, beyond anger. I see, her father finally said. Wait here. He left the room. Her mother sat on the sofa, covering her face with her hands. Connor and Haley came out from the kitchen, standing with expressions of fear and confusion. A few minutes later, the living room door opened again. Catherine turned and froze. Her father had returned with a shotgun in his hands. Dad, what are you doing? Catherine was paralyzed with fear. Walter, stop, her mother screamed, but her father wouldn't listen. He pointed the gun at Catherine, his hands shaking. You betrayed the family, her father's voice was low and dangerously resonant. Tears welled in his eyes. You have a duty to save the family. Dad, calm down, Catherine raised both hands. Put the gun down. Let's talk. Talking is over, her father shouted. You should sacrifice yourself for the family. He gripped the shotgun more tightly. Cancel the wedding and use the money for the family. That's your duty. The room fell completely silent. Connor and Haley were frozen against the wall in terror. Her mother continued crying. Catherine, although trembling, slowly stood up. Her heart was filled with fear, but beneath it was a firm resolve. Stop it, she said quietly. You're not family. Family loves and supports each other. Family wishes for each other's happiness. But you're trying to take everything away from me. Her father's hand shook. What do you think will happen to us if you leave? That's your problem, Catherine summoned her courage to say. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were resolute. I am no longer the solution. She slowly backed away toward the door. Her father didn't lower the shotgun, keeping it aimed at Catherine until she opened the door. If you leave, never come back, her father said in a low voice. You are no longer my daughter. Catherine took one last look at her family. Her mother continued crying, Connor was expressionless. Haley's eyes reflected fear and confusion. Goodbye, Catherine said. Then she ran outside. With trembling hands, she somehow managed to open the car door and start the engine. Looking in the rearview mirror, she saw her father standing at the entrance of the house. He was still holding the shotgun. Catherine drove away, leaving her childhood home behind. With tears blurring her vision, she headed for David's apartment. On a Sunday afternoon, early summer sunshine bathed the garden of Catherine and David's new home. They were tending to a flower bed in their small front yard, enclosed by a white picket fence. When David kissed Catherine's cheek, leaving a dirt mark, she laughed from her heart. 3 months into their marriage, she was finally beginning to feel true happiness. Their wedding had been small but warm. David's parents and siblings, their close friends, and Catherine's colleagues from work had attended. None of Catherine's family came. The only communication from Haley was a text message the day before the ceremony saying, "I want to come, but Mom and Dad won't let me." There was sadness, but Catherine was trying to accept it as part of a new beginning. She had cut off contact with her parents and began working with a psychological counselor to recover from years of codependency. "This daisy likes sunny spots, doesn't it?" Catherine said as she moved a potted plant. "Just like you," David smiled. "The type that shines in the light." Just then, they heard an unfamiliar old Ford sedan stopping on their street. Catherine looked up and froze. Getting out of the car were her parents, brother, and sister. They looked exhausted and shabby. Her father's face was more haggard than before, and her mother's shoulders drooped. Connor's long hair looked unclean, and Haley stared at the ground in embarrassment. "Should I send them away?" David whispered. His voice contained anger. He couldn't forget the image of Catherine rushing to his apartment that night, sobbing uncontrollably. Catherine took a deep breath. "No. I'll hear what they have to say. But they're not coming inside." She slowly stood up and walked to the small garden gate. David stood with his arms crossed, slightly behind her. His presence gave her courage. "What do you want?" Catherine asked coldly. Her heart was pounding. "Cat." Her mother began to speak, but her father grabbed her arm to stop her. "We lost the house," her father muttered. His eyes were bloodshot, clearly affected by alcohol. "The debt collectors threatened us, we had no choice but to run." Her mother added tearfully, "We have no one else to turn to, Cat. Please help us." Catherine hid her trembling hands but answered calmly, 3 months ago, you pointed a shotgun at me. You said I wasn't family anymore. What do you expect now?" "I was upset then," her father made excuses. He avoided her eyes, looking at his feet. "You're my daughter. You're family. Isn't family supposed to help each other? You're teaching me about family." Catherine smiled. It wasn't a warm smile but one filled with sadness and determination. "All you taught me was that family is a one-sided exploitative relationship." Connor stepped forward. "We're really in trouble, Cat. We've been sleeping in the car. Haley had to quit college." Haley was crying quietly. "It's not my fault," she said in a small voice. "Dad's debts." "Shut up," her father shouted. Catherine looked at Haley. Her sister's eyes reflected fear and desperation. For the first time, Catherine realized that she too was a victim. After a long silence, Catherine made her decision. Holding David's hand, she gathered her courage and said, "You can't come inside. But I'll offer you options." She confronted her father directly. "First, reveal all the details of your debts. No secrets. Second, you will undergo treatment for alcohol and gambling addiction. Third, Connor and Haley will find jobs within a week. Fourth, everyone will participate in family counseling. These are my conditions." Her father displayed his anger. "I don't have to take orders from you." His face reddened again, beginning to regain his intimidating demeanor. "Then leave," Catherine said firmly. She wasn't afraid anymore. "These are my conditions. Let me know your answer by tomorrow. If you accept, I'll arrange a safe apartment for 2 months only. During that time, become self-sufficient." Her mother pleaded tearfully, "Cat, we're family. Blood-related family." Those words would have broken the old Catherine, but not anymore. "Real family respects each other and builds healthy relationships," Catherine answered quietly. "I will provide financial support, but I won't continue the codependency. I'll help you become self-sufficient. But I will never allow exploitation again." Her father was trembling with anger, but another emotion appeared in his eyes. It was fear. He was beginning to understand that he could no longer intimidate his daughter. "I'll think about it," he finally said. "I'll come to hear your answer at this time tomorrow," Catherine said calmly. "Until then, I recommend staying at a motel in town. I'll pay for it." She took cash from her wallet and handed it to Haley. As the family returned to their car, Haley momentarily stopped and looked at Catherine. "Thank you," she said softly. "I know you're right." Catherine nodded slightly. Her sister's words lit a small hope in her heart. At least for Haley, there might still be a chance for salvation. After the car left, David embraced Catherine. "Are you okay?" Catherine took a deep breath. There were tears in her eyes, but her voice was strong. "I'm okay. I won't abandon them. But if they don't change, there's no place for them in my life." As she returned to the house with David, she felt her own growth. 3 months ago, she had sought approval from her family and thought it was her duty to meet their demands. Now she knew that her worth wasn't determined by her sacrifices for her family. To understand what a true family is, she first needed to be free from a false one. And finally, she had gained that freedom. In a bright cafe with spring sunlight streaming through the windows, Catherine watched her sister Haley with a gentle smile. Their weekly lunch had become a new habit. "My scholarship came through," Haley happily reported. "I can go back to school next semester." "Congratulations," Catherine said sincerely. "I know you'll succeed." It had been a year since that day. Family relationships had completely changed. At first, her father refused to accept Catherine's conditions, but having no other options, he eventually gave in. Catherine hired a financial advisor and a lawyer to organize her parents' debts. She arranged an apartment for 2 months and set up addiction treatment and employment support programs. The first few weeks were rough. Her father tried to abandon treatment several times, and her mother couldn't break free from her shopping addiction. Connor was reluctant to job hunt. But Catherine remained firm. She held weekly family meetings to check progress. She had made it clear that support would be cut off if they didn't meet the conditions. The turning point came when her father acknowledged his problems in an addiction group for the first time. "I had sunk so low that I lost my daughter," he confessed, as Haley later told Catherine. From that day, changes began to appear gradually. Her father continued his sobriety and started working as a small-time repairman, using his construction site experience. Her mother found a part-time job and began facing her spending habits. Surprisingly, Connor found a way to use his musical talent, starting to teach guitar at a local music school. And Haley was balancing her studies and work. "Mom and Dad said they'll come to dinner at your house this weekend," Haley said while drinking her coffee. "Dad seems very nervous." Catherine smiled gently. This would be the first time she had invited her parents to dinner at her and David's house. Previously, they had always met in neutral places like cafes or restaurants. This was a big step. "David said he'll make his special lasagna," Catherine said. "You and Connor should come too." Of course, Haley's face brightened. "So, what about the baby news? When will you tell the family?" Catherine gently touched her slightly swollen belly. "At the next dinner. I think it's the right timing." On her way home, Catherine reflected on the changes of the past year. Her parents and siblings were renting a small house and leading independent lives. Not perfect yet, but the family had taken the first steps toward building a healthy relationship. And above all, she herself had changed. She no longer needed to bear the burden of being the family pillar alone. She had found her value not in sacrifice or service, but in her dignity as a human being. When she arrived home, David was working in the garden. He looked up and gazed at Catherine. "How was it?" "Good," she answered, embraced in her husband's arms. "They've changed. I've changed too." Catherine looked up at the sky. What she was picturing in her mind was the meaning of family she wanted to convey to the child soon to be born. Not dependence or exploitation, but a relationship where people respect each other and rejoice in each other's growth. Freed from years of codependency, she understood the meaning of a healthy family for the first time. And through this new life, she would pass on a different form of family to the next generation. What do you think family is? Catherine suddenly asked David. David smiled and answered, a place of love and respect. A place where you can be yourself. Yes, Catherine nodded gently. That's the kind of family I want to give our child. She finally understood. True family isn't about blood ties, but heart connections. And now, she was beginning to create that true family.